Good morning, guys. I hope nivuke kahle namhlanje. There's something I wanted to talk about that was actually prompted by the video about red flags that I posted izolo. Do you know, Nani? In my blunders that I've made in my life, and the worst mistakes that I've made, and some of which that I've also spoken about, I've realized how kind God is, because I've seen God did offer me an opportunity to correct my mistake. God offered me an opportunity in His kindness to correct my mistake, and I didn't take it. In fact, I went in deeper and deeper into trouble. You know how I said, I'm 17 and I'm actually supposed to go in. But I just want to quickly say this. So, you know how I shared, but I bought my husband a Mercedes-Benz GLC that I was paying 15,000 every month towards the car. So he drove it 2019, 2020, 2021. In August, the car was bought in August, towards the end of August in 2019. Then we moved from Cape Town, and then we went to a Lady Grey, where I said I was doing my internship. But he was commuting from Lady Grey to Alwell North every day, because he had a barber shop in Alwell North that he owned there, and he was running it on a daily basis. The distance from Lady Grey to Alwell North, I think it's plus minus 100 k's. So he would drive going and drive coming back, and that was a lot of driving. That was a lot of petrol. That was a lot of strain on the car itself. And sometimes I guess he would be exhausted because he was going there every day. Anyways, so to cut the long story short, because 10 minutes is not enough, he was involved in an accident. My husband was involved in an accident with the GLC. On the day that he was involved in an accident, it was the day after we had the biggest fight. The day before, I don't remember what we were arguing about, but the fight didn't end well. He beat me up. He must have slapped me multiple times, and after slapping me, I fell, and then he dragged me on the ground. I remember him dragging me on the ground and me sitting on the ground like that and crying while I was seated on the ground. Crying while I was on the ground. I'm laughing now because I'm saying all of this in retrospect. And while I was crying, he didn't. It's like he didn't care, ne? But I remember at some point looking at him and asking him, "But can you see me? It's me." Like what he was, we are better, and his eyes are red, and I'm looking at him and I'm like, "It's me. Can you see?" And he was just continuing beating me. That day, my heart was so broken. After he beat me up, I just got up. When he stopped, I got up, and then I went to the room and I started praying. And I think I was so defeated that day that when I prayed, I said to God, Jongatiko, the marriage is like this, and I don't know, Mnaba, what's your will with my life as far as this marriage is concerned. But then I said, my heart can now realize that things are not going to get better. So if it's your will for this marriage to end, please end it yourself. And then I said, if you can see Ubamna, I'm being resistant to getting out of this marriage and to letting this marriage go, please remove this marriage, make a plan, and just remove me or remove my husband. I said that to God and I said, Amen. Guys, I am not lying to you. I'm not lying to you. The following day, my husband drove to his barber shop, and then he had an accident. When I woke up in the morning, obviously we're not speaking to each other. I went to my work and I was walking to work because it was like a 3 minutes walk, and then I could walk. And I walked to work, and then he drove, and he got into an accident. I was just called by someone I don't know, who called and said, hello, your husband has just had an accident. Then the first thing I asked is, where is he? Is he okay? And then the driver said, yes, he's okay. Then I said, please give him the phone. He was given the phone, and I said, are you hurt? And he said, no, I am not hurt. Then I said, please make sure that no tow truck comes to tow the car. I'm going to call the insurance and find and make sure that whoever takes the car has been given the go ahead by the insurance. Then after that, I called the insurance. Obviously, Galoanis, the car is in my name, and the car is also insured by me, even though he is the primary driver of the car. So I was the one that had to exercise like all of that and facilitate all of that. So then I called the insurance, and the insurance people go into they go there, and then they give a go ahead for the tow company, and luckily the tow truck was already there. The car was finished. The car was completely finished, and my husband came out without a scratch. The car was completely finished. He came out without a scratch. I had a friend that took me to the site of the accident. When I got there, I assessed him quickly and I saw that he's fine. Then I said that it's fine. We can, if you are not feeling okay, we can go and assess you at the hospital that I'm working at. The friend that I came there with, he helped us to put our things in his car, and like my husband and I, we got into the friend's car, and then we drove back home. When we got home, we didn't talk to each other or say anything or try to rehash whatever it is that might have happened. We just got there, we knelt down in our room, and then we prayed. We thanked God for his safety. We thanked God like for protecting him, and we were just crying like on our knees and just praying and thanking God. This video is going to cut again because I'm already at 7 minutes 55 seconds. We thank God, we prayed, and then from there afterwards, I was now calling the insurance, trying to get like a courtesy car because I was already frustrated. Now I was like, okay, he is fine. He is fine. That means that he's gonna need a car. So I need to now call the insurance people for a courtesy car and tell them yonkinto. Then I was like stressed going back and forth with the insurance because like Bloemfontein is 2 hours away for us to go and fetch the courtesy car. Like it was just a stressful process. But that is fine. And then I was just on the phone the whole time. Yena, he was also on the phone with his family, and the members were like just bekuza. And after that, they were like praying with him and all of that. But I wasn't in those prayers because I was busy on the phone. The following day, it was the same thing. I woke up. At the time, I was on a weight loss journey, so I was doing jump rope. I woke up and I did the jump rope, and after that, I was on the phone. I was on the phone the whole time. We did not talk about the fight that we had or anything, but this is what I want to say in the last minute because this is what this video is about. When that car got into an accident, it was a complete write-off, but my husband was fine. The bank paid, the insurance paid, and also the shortfall cover paid for the car, and the car was completely covered and it was paid for. It's like God said, Tselwe, you've made the worst financial mistake of your life. I am blotting it out. I am forgiving you. I'm giving you a chance to make better decisions. Guys, I will tell you on part 2 of this video, Uba, what did I do with that chance? Because you would think, Uba, just because God has helped me to correct a financial mistake, I will make better decisions. I didn't make better decisions. In fact, we went and we got my husband an even more expensive car 23,000 per month. Hi guys, I'm sorry, I know, but I took too long to come with this part 2, but it's because Galoku we all go to work most, so work was quite hectic. But anyways, I ended the first video where I was talking about the fact that my husband was in an accident. The car became like a total write-off on the spot. This is now the GLC. The Mercedes-Benz GLC was a write-off on the spot, the one that I was paying 15,000 for every month. The nice thing is that I had a comprehensive insurance on the car, and I also had like a shortfall cover on the car. That is like one thing that like I made sure, because you know I was like advised Uba, if you are going to buy an expensive car, you must know Uba, you've completely covered it. And I just want to say this to young ladies, females that are buying like a car for the very first time. First of all, I feel like as a young female, you've got no business buying like a luxurious, very expensive car as your first car. If you're just a young like female, your first car, I feel like you've got no business buying a very expensive car. But yeah, if you feel you want to, and like you are single and you've worked for it, you want to buy like a luxurious car, it's fine, yeah, but just make sure you can afford the insurance, a comprehensive, and also afford the shortfall cover on the car. That was just a side note. So the insurance paid, the shortfall was paid for, and then like within a space of a month, and during that time, my husband had a courtesy car that he was driving. He was driving a Polo TSI that was also an automatic. And like then the car was paid for, and then that meant that my name was cleared. So that meant I was like in the clear now to start looking for another car. This whole time that we've been talking with my husband, we are speaking about the next purchase of a car. What kind of a car that are we going to purchase? So I say to him, listen, I feel like with you being involved in an accident with the car that you were driving, and now standing at a point where the car is fully paid for and my name is clear, I honestly feel like that was God trying to help me to correct a financial mistake that I had done. And then I was like, listen, let's be honest to ourselves. We are not able to afford this car. You can see how like the lifestyle at home, it has gotten like to a bad place. We are not comfortable. We are not happy. Money wise, like I'm always broke, despite the fact that I am working, but we're not able to do most of the things that we were supposed to be able to do. And I think, like even when I'm speaking about these things, obviously, like I'm trying to avoid to say that, oh, another thing is because we are a one income household. No, I don't say things like that, because I don't want him to feel like I'm putting the blame on him. But what I was trying to reason out with him was for him to understand, but we do not afford this car 15,000 to begin with. Then I said to him, can we please consider downgrading? Can we please downgrade? Because that car was a big car and it's very expensive to begin with. The insurance is expensive. The installment of the car is expensive. Can we please downgrade? Then he said, he's not prepared to take anything that is not a Mercedes-Benz. For him, it's going to be Mercedes-Benz or nothing. And another thing, he said that he's not going to be a laughing stock amongst like his people and his friends and just like people in general, because he was driving a Mercedes-Benz, a bigger car. It's bigger, like even amongst his peers, he was driving a bigger car. Gogi got involved in an accident, and now I want to turn him into a laughing stock by making him drive a small car. uzawuhlekwa yena. And njengoba ezawuhlekwa like mna ndithini ngesidima sakhe. And yena he's not gonna be fine. Yay? Ndithi ke ngoku kuye mna, okay, if we go and buy an expensive car, just like the car that you were driving, you've got to know about going forward, we will never afford to stay in the city, okanye to stay in town, okanye like to go and stay somewhere where like the cost of bread is expensive and the way of life is also expensive. Because I've got to think about what is it that I can afford. I cannot afford to have you drive the most expensive car and then also have the kids and have to send the kids to good schools, and also the kind of a house that we're gonna stay in, pay the rental like that, because like if you go and stay in the city with the big family that we've got, that means that when we get to the city and we get a rental, that house is gonna be like 13,000-15,000. So I cannot pay rent that is that expensive and then pay for a car that is that expensive at the same time, when I have to cover like the daily like bills up and. Then he said, yeah, he understands that means we're gonna have to stay in rural. Then he said, yeah, he would rather compromise and then we stay in rural. When he drives like a cheap car. We went to Mercedes-Benz. When we got to Mercedes-Benz, on the floor, on the showroom, there was a GLB. That was in 2021, ne? That was in 2021 in August. The Mercedes-Benz GLB was new. Yes, I think the Mercedes-Benz was brand new. Like just then, like it had just been like released. It was on the showroom. There was the brand new GLB. Hey guys, that was white in color and SUV. And my husband was not even interested to look for other cars. He just stopped in front of that car and he said, "This is the car I want." And I was like, did you see how much this car is? It's like, this is the car I want. The price that was attached to that car was 1.2 million. And I'm like, we don't have a house. We are busy giving birth to other kids. And like, I cannot afford this car. Then he's like, no, this is the car that he wants. Then I rehashed the conversation with him. I'm like, listen, if you want us to buy this car, then no, Uber, that means for the duration that I'm paying for this car, because this car I'm going to be paying 20,000 or above for the duration that I'm paying this car, we cannot go stay in the city. We cannot like have any other life except like staying in rural with our kids and knowing that we're going to compromise on everything else, because I'm going to need to get paid good money. I'm also going to need to also have rural allowance for me to be able to afford to buy this car. Then we got the quotation for the car, and then the dealer was talking to me, broke down the costs and showed me how much I'd be paying. Affordability was worked out. Obviously, I came out on top, like I'm gonna afford the car. We went to have lunch with my husband. At the restaurant, I rehashed the conversation again. We spoke about it. Then he said, yeah, no, we would rather stay in rural, but that's the car that he wants to drive. We went back home, and then when we came back again, fine, I signed on the dotted line, guys. Son, if I'm not gonna go mad because of this, since I didn't go mad on it, I will never go mad again. We signed on the dotted line. I signed, and then he got his car. So the car that he got was a GLB that was royal blue in color. It was a gorgeous car. When you are sitting inside the car, it felt like you are riding in luxury. Like, it was a very beautiful car. It was a beautiful car that was costing me an arm and a leg. I was paying 20,000, 19,000 and something, closer to 20,000 for the installment. Then the insurance was closer to 3,000. So in total, I was paying 23,000 per month towards a car alone for a man that is not employed. And I was taking care of the kids, of every other bill. Yo, Sana, I'm so sorry but you are triggered by this. If you are triggered, I am so sorry. Okay. So now, my husband is driving his car that's costing me 23,000 every month. Because that was around what the August ended, and then the following month he was now driving that car. We were still in Lady Grey where I was doing my community service, because most community service is a whole year. Hi. So now he's driving this car, and then the bank starts deducting, and I realized, but yay, this is expensive. This is expensive. It's so expensive because if you think about it, from the car that he was driving and we were paying 15,000, now you have added an additional 8,000 that is going towards a car. And community service is gonna end. When community service ends, I'm gonna have to find a job. So now it's towards the end of the year, and I can see by the province is not really looking to reabsorb us. So I have to start looking for a job and going for interviews. I started looking for a job. I started going for interviews. Some of the interviews were horrible. They went quite horrible. And then some of the interviews I was confident. So in the hospital that I'm now working in, when I did the interview, I was quite confident that okay, I did well, but there was also other hospitals that I had interviewed in, but most of these places, they were rural. Because there was no posts that were coming out from the city hospitals. And another thing I've always thought about it as the competition is tough. For city hospitals, most doctors don't want to go to work in rural. So if I want to be sure that I'm gonna get a job, then I need to also be targeting those hospitals that people don't want to go to. To be honest, I was worried I was worried about what's gonna happen to the livelihood of my kids. What's gonna happen to this husband that likes living an expensive life. I wasn't thinking for myself. As a result, towards the end of the year, I'd already been signed. I'd already gotten my independent practitioner Ndoni HPCSA clearance. I was already I'd already done courses your advanced life training courses, so that I'm able to look for locums. I was still doing ComServe, but before it could even become the 1st of January, I already had my certificates. I was already cleared, because I knew I had to start looking for locums, of which I did. So December came. Now we have got to vacate where we are staying at Lady Grey. We've got to vacate, and I've spoken about this in another video. Because the contract has ended, we have to vacate. Then we are now thinking about where are we gonna stay. So my husband said, he's not gonna continue staying in Lady Grey while I'm still waiting to be called wherever I got a job. He can't stay in this place. This place has been frustrating him. He wants to go and stay somewhere where it's a city in the meantime that we're waiting to hear. Then we started thinking about places should we go stay in Port Elizabeth? Maybe if we stay in Port Elizabeth, because I'm hopeful of this hospital that I've interviewed in, but they haven't okayed it. They haven't told me, but yes, I'm getting the job. Or I've interviewed even in Lady Grey, I've interviewed in Buckley East, I've interviewed in Joburg. I don't know where I'm gonna get the job. Then we eventually came to a consensus that Bloemfontein is in the middle of the country. We should go and stay in Bloemfontein. And then we wait. Then we stayed in Bloemfontein. When we stayed in Bloemfontein, I was waiting for a call. Eventually, I did get my letter of appointment where I'm working now. So I knew that I had to come and start, but I couldn't start in January, because since I'm a bursary holder, there was that whole thing where the government had to place us, and because the government couldn't place us, then they made an arrangement that we should go back to the hospitals that we're doing our internship for the month of January, while they were trying to get jobs for us. So that complicated my time of coming here to start my post, to start my permanent post, like on the 1st of January. I had to like work up until like the end of the month, and then only came here to start in February, of which at that time we were already staying in Bloemfontein. And when we wanted to leave Bloemfontein to come and get a house here, the people that were renting us the place in Bloemfontein, they said no, we must give a 3 months notice before we can vacate the house. So I left my family there. I left the nanny, I left the kids, and I left the husband there. I came to start working. Someone like helped me to squat while I was working here, and then I would drive back home. By this time, I told my husband, I'm like, because I am going to go and be working far, I feel like now it's the time when I should get myself a car, because this whole time was he has been driving a GLC and then he went to drive a GLB. I didn't have a car, but now I was saying I'm a medical officer now. I'm no longer like a community service doctor. I need to have my own car because I'm also looking to be working and doing extra shifts like wherever I can go. So that means I need to be able to drive my own car. And another thing, he is staying in Bloemfontein. I'm gonna be going to work. He's here with the kids. I have to, in the meantime, be coming, to Bloemfontein to see the kids and to see basically to see the kids up until they can come and move and join me where I'm at. Then he wasn't happy about that. I know, but like he wasn't happy the fact that I was gonna now get myself a car. But at this point, I think also feeling how painful it is to pay for his car, and also like all the abuse that I've endured, I was already starting to like feel bad. But I've been working this whole time. What is it that I've done for myself? What is it? I have like been breaking my back for this husband to be comfortable, to be happy, but he's not really happy, because despite yonke lento that I am doing, trying to work hard to make sure that the kids are fine, to make sure that he is happy, but I still come back home and he still like treats me kakubi. He still like is abusive. He still insults me. All of that. So I was starting to feel like, anyway, you probably need to start thinking about what is it that you want. So I just toughened up my head. I went and I bought myself a car. So I got myself a Kia Rio. It was cute. I loved my car. Yeah. Also another thing, I justified it and I said there's no use, but we must be in the same house and we both drive big cars. He drives a big car. I mean, GLB is a big SUV and it's a 7-seater. So I was like, it's fine. His car can work as a family car, and then I'll just buy like a small car just so that I'm able to move from point A to point B. I enjoyed my car, okay? I don't wanna lie. I really did enjoy my Kia Rio. And every 2 weeks, I would like leave work and go to Bloemfontein to go and check on them. I think I spoke explicitly about this, about how abusive like the weekend would be. The time when he beat me up and closed up my eye was in one of those like visits that I did. Before this part ends, I just want to say, getting that car was the worst mistake of my life. Like his car, the car that cost 23,000. It was the worst mistake of my life. I've never been so miserable. But as miserable as I was, that man enjoyed himself. He enjoyed himself and he didn't care. It broke my back. It was painful. And at this point, I was like, but God had offered me an opportunity to correct this. God had given me an opportunity on a silver platter and said, Mtanam, correct this. And I chose not to. I chose not to because it was always tough to disappoint my husband. I've always told myself, but if he is happy, if my kids are happy at home, I will also be fine. And I've realized that my marriage was about making other people happy. It was never about me. It was never.
Mlalelo wami asipheli la lesi story. Ngithemba ukuthi usenjoyile. Upart 2 khona usa-edithwa njengamanje. Ngiyacela makuwukuthi uyawudinga bhala phela kwi-comment section futhi part 2 please, ebese uphinda uyalike, yabo, wenze sure ukuthi ivideo uyilayikile, yabo, noma ngathiwa ubusuphuma buye uzolike usho ukuthi part 2 please, uyeza part 2 bafethu, niyazi mina owenu ngeke ngize nginilale. Wena nje uhlala kusubscribe, uhlale kulike, wenze sure ukuthi uyakhomenta. Uma uthi nomuntu futhi ofisa ukuyidiscussa naye noma ufisa ukuthi ayizwe, ishare uyihambise kuyena, open discussion bafethu. Njengoba ku-social media kusuke sekuwukuthi nje nathi share umbono ukuthi ngempela wena ubungenze njani, bhekana nalokhu, ubungenze njani, bhekana nalokhu. Cela ukuthi ungakhohlwa ukusubscribe, wenze sure ukuthi ulayikile, wenze sure futhi ukuthi ucommentile, noma ungasekhona ukuthi part 2 please, kodwa nje ukushare umbono wakho mayelana nodaba lukasisi. Sihlangane ku part 2 bafethu.